Faust, a tragedy by Wolfgang von Goethe. My fellow citizens of all nations, this story is very interesting. And while reading this book this week, I had this feeling of remorse and great regret because I was planning to read this book 2 years earlier, but for whatever reason, I decided to not to read it. And I had this regret of why did not I read this book much earlier, because it is that interesting. I even thought the story is quite puzzling and very different. And especially at certain point, the story has very unexpected turn because I was expecting from Faust to ask from Mephistopheles, the devil, something much more interesting. I was expecting from him to ascend to the throne, to become emperor, or initiate some war or some destruction. That was what I was expecting. Because there is a devil and there's a Faust. And I was like, that's something grand is going to happen, obviously. But the story takes a very interesting turn when Faust, out of nowhere, just falls in love with this girl. And he asks from Mephistopheles to help him to get her. And story starts to descend from that moment toward very uninteresting situation where basically instead of using the devil to do something much more grander, because that's what the devils do usually in history, right? You know, in the case of Buddha, in case of Jesus, and many other great beings, basically, devil usually appears and offers them the worldly powers. They offer them the world, and I was expecting something like that from Mephistopheles to offer Faust. But the Faust has such a simple request from the devil, while Faust appears to be very learned and very wise man. And the story descends from there basically toward the tragic ending where Faust eventually regrets the very fact that he is born. And he wished that he was never born in the first place. When you wish to not to be born, that's definitely a sign of maybe selfishness as well. Because if you are never born, then you are never going to experience the pain and suffering. And that's one of the things about the book is that if you don't pay attention to the facts, you might miss the whole on the points. And one the main point is that there is such a profound and deep critique of Christian society in this book. And it is such a beautiful and such a well-made critique of Christian society that usually when you read this book, you just miss that whole point unless you just paid attention, because it critiques the Christian society very well. Even a story of Margaret. Now, did she really deserve to be burned as a witch? No, she did not. Like, if we forget the fictional parts of the story, she was at best a victim of a man. And at worst, she is just inexperienced and very naive. And she definitely did not deserve to be burned and accused to be a witch. This is just crazy. And the idea of burning witches and etc. is quite, let me say it this way, quite dark past in Christian history. And the way it is criticized, it is well written. Also, there is profound character shown of different Christian ways. Basically, for example, Orthodox Christianity is criticized very well. How Orthodox have this attitude toward ancient Greek past, where Greek gods are mentioned as basically devils. Apparently, Greeks were ruled by devils, because that's how much disdain and how much hatred and how much feeling of superiority the Christianity has generally toward other religions and other beliefs. And it is very well shown. And it became eventually the most important part, which I sort of grabbed in the book and which greatly impressed me. And of course, the writing style is also very well done. And the ending itself, even though it was quite unexpected, and as I've said, I was expecting something very different. It also makes sense in that sense that, well, in history, philosophy, there is this story of great philosopher, Greek philosopher, that allowed himself to be, basically, he kneels in front of 18 years old Greek girl and he allows her to ride him like a horse. And think about that story, and I'm like, why? Why would a great philosopher do that? And in the same sense, why did Faust did this? We should never trust the devil. Never ever trust the devil. They will always have ulterior motives. And devils could be some people you know. And, don't trust them, basically. And if you make a deal with the devil, you're greatly mistaken if you think that you are going to outsmart them. Because you are not going to do that. You won't be able to do that. And you are the one who is going to suffer, and people you care about are also going to experience suffering. And that's also very important. So do not make this naive deal with the devil in hopes that if you make that deal, you are going to get something out of that deal. In fact, you're going to harm the people you care about as well. This is the end of the conversation. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already.